A drama-filled finish there in Event 7 for the ladies of the Central Regional. Back inside the CrossFit Games Update Show studios, Sean Woodland with Pat Sherwood and Tommy Marquez. I'm not sure how to process what we just watched right there.
No, I did my whole life's worth of screaming at the screen watching that thing. I mean, and everything from women stepping up and crushing it to people that we've seen run away with it all weekend and have a stumble in the last event, you know, like Wells. I mean, the excitement was nuts.
I mean, even when they cut to that wide shot, there were just athletes scattered all over the place. On the barbell, on the ring still, people pacing back and forth. Julie Foucher's got a boot on. Like, I had no idea what was going on.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. We want to recap the or what happened in Europe at the Meridian Regional first. There's still the West Regional going on. We're going to get you out there in a second. But on the men's side in the Meridian Regional, Jonakowski was dominant. He won the first 3 events, 4 total. He finishes first. Bjorgvin Gudmundsson and Lucas Hoberg are both going back to the games as well. Stephen Fawcett becomes the first man from England to qualify for the games in the open era. And then Phil Hesketh beat Philip Yang Fisker by 5 spots on Event 7. He got himself into the games in that final event. And Amanda Krenz spoke with Jonakowski following day number 3.
Did you have any idea how dominant you would be?
No, honestly. No, I didn't.
Are you just being humble?
I don't know, because I've been training with Hoberg, and I knew he was in really tough shape, and I didn't know, like, pretty much anything about other guys. I was pretty confident with my shape, but honestly, I had no idea I could do this good.
Jonakowski looks like he might be next in line to be that dominant man out of Europe that we really haven't seen since the guy who coaches him, Mikko Salo.
Koski was the polar opposite of what we just saw happen in event number 7 right there. This anarchy, he was just smooth the entire time. There was never any just kind of drama as to whether or not he was going to make it to the games. Led at the end of every single solitary day. Had 4 first-place finishes out of only 7 events. Again, never in danger. Mikko Salo's protege. Can't wait to see him head back to the games. He won the European Regional last year, and he's showing us why.
And Phil Hesketh has a great performance there on Event 7 to finally get himself into the top 5.
Yeah, and a fantastic performance by Hesketh. He came into the day sitting in 6th place. He was 34 points back of Philip Yang Fisker, a guy who won back-to-back events in 4 and 5. But you know what? Hesketh steps up big when he needed to. He finished 8th in Event 6 when Fisker finished 22nd, made up some points, was only 6 points back heading into that final event. He finishes 3rd in Event 7, moves up into 5th. It's a 47-point swing in total on day number 3 to get him to the CrossFit Games. And he now has the distinction of being the only athlete from Asia, Africa, or Latin America to make it to the games this year, so that's a big accomplishment.
For the women, we figured somebody from Iceland was going to win this thing. We thought we knew who it was, but we were pretty wrong. We thought Annie Thorisdottir would walk away with the victory, but Annie finishing 3rd, and a rookie, Sarah Sigmundsdottir, out-dueling her 2 countrywomen to finish in 1st place. Kristen Holte, the only woman not from Iceland, in the top 3. But Sarah Sigmundsdottir, given what she just did at this regional, given who she beat it, and given how dominant she was in the process, has to be considered a contender at Carson.
She's an out-of-control lunatic that kicked a lot of butt out there that I didn't think she'd be so dominant. And yes, I will be watching her in Carson to potentially get on the podium.
An event record, finished no worse than 9th, and she walks away as the Meridian champion ahead of Annie Thorisdottir. 100% a contender in my book.
Let's have fun with numbers. What we've done is taken all of Sarah Sigmundsdottir's scores and plugged them into different regionals that have already finished. This is where she would have finished. She would have won the Pacific by 8 points, would have dominated the East, would have won the Atlantic, would have dominated California. The only person she would have finished 2nd to is in the South, and that's Camila Blanc-Bazinet. But if you take Camila Blanc-Bazinet's score and plug them into the Meridian Regional, Sarah Sigmundsdottir wins. So,
ooh, Camille doesn't want to hear that.
Yeah, could be.
I'm not a math guy, as a sociology major, but I think what that graph is telling me is she would have crushed any region, and that's exactly why we're talking about her potentially being on the podium.
And in the Pacific, she would have beat Cara Webb. So.
Yeah, that's true. So we will see how that plays out at the games. Just an interesting little stat for you to chew on there. Final qualifiers from the teams for the Meridian Regional. CrossFit Yas spent basically the entire competition on top of the leaderboard until the final event. CrossFit Solid, great finish for them. first and a second in events 6 and 7. CrossFit Reykjavik, Virtuosity, CrossFit Turkum, and CrossFit Fabriken, all heading to the CrossFit Games. Event number 6 for the women is underway out west in Tacoma. We're going to join Heat 4 in progress. Brandon Domain and John Jansen have the call.
Lead, 16 chest-to-bar pull-ups completed for Core. Abbott just now getting off the rower. 90 seconds remain until the time cap of 16 minutes. One rep remains for Jessica Core. She comes off the wall. It will be an event win for the athlete. In 4th place, Jessica Core. Huge points win for her. 100 points added to the total.
She came in with one of the top 5 spots. Tony got at number 4, looking to move up the leaderboard, possibly getting onto the podium.
Important here for Emily Abbott. Keep in mind, she has such a lead over 6th position. If she can finish this out, maybe take a top 3 spot, she might have a shot of just showing up is all she'll need to do in event 7. We'll have to see how the points play out for that. But looking for another top 3 finish. 2 reps remain for Abbott. 9 remain, now 8 for Matthews. Reagan Huckabee working on her set of chest-to-bar pull-ups as she has faded late. 15 seconds remain. Can Abbott finish? It looks like that won't happen. We'll have 2 women complete event 6 within the 16-minute time cap. Jolene Undershoot at 15:52, and the event winner, Jessica Core, at 14:49. How about that to start day number 3? We might see a 6th Games appearance for Jessica Core for the first time as an individual if she keeps up efforts like that.
Yeah, and that's why she went individual. She wanted that opportunity to make a name for herself instead of being on a team. But Jessica Core, very smooth, much like we saw in Heat 3 with Jolene Undershoot. Didn't talk about her much until the 2nd or 3rd round, but then always there, always in the lead at that point, keeping and maintaining a great pace. Jessica Core with a time of 14:49.
Jessica only 23 points clear of the cut line for those 5 qualifying spots, doing everything she can, getting 100 additional points with the event win in event 6, and she's with Mike Arsenault.
Jessica, big win here on event number 6, so there's a good chance this might push you in to the top 3 as we head into event number 7. How are the arms during the handstand push-ups and also the chest-to-bar pull-ups?
The arms actually felt great. That was the best handstand push-ups have ever gone for me, like in practice. So I just went with what felt good. The push-ups, I already had a plan. I was going to do 10 and 6 the whole time to save my arms for the push-ups. And then the row was slow, but it wasn't about the row.
So event 7 coming up now. We have 15 muscle-ups and some heavy squat cleans. What are you looking forward to in that workout?
I love squat cleans, so I'm looking forward to that. But muscle-ups are good too, so we'll just see. There's a lot of good competition out here, so it'll be a crapshoot, as far as who gets off the rings first.
It's been a very tough weekend. Lots of workouts, grueling events. How's the body holding up?
Good. Feel good.
Feel good. One more event to go. Jessica Core looks like she put herself onto the podium with that victory, guys.
Thanks, Mike, and a feel-good win for Jessica Core, hoping to get to the games for the first time as an individual, a 6th time overall. It would be number 7. The only season she missed was 2011 when she was giving birth that year after starting CrossFit here in 2009. A very successful career for Jessica Core, hoping to get to the games. One event remains for both the women and the men. We'll have the wild and crazy event number 7 in just a few moments from Tacoma.
win for Jessica Core there in Event 6 out west. Welcome back inside the CrossFit Games Update Show studios as we continue our third day of live regional coverage in the third and final week. We'll get you updated on everything that's been going on so far, but let's get back out to the Central Region where the final men's leaderboard shaping up, and this is what it looks like with Scott Panchik on the top. Jacob Hebner, who led for the majority of the competition, slipped up in that final event. He falls to second. Alex Anderson, Nick Urankar, and Graham Holmberg going back to the games with 464 points. Scott Panchik, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. We thought he was going to win this regional, and for a while there, that looked like maybe it wasn't going to happen, but then Event 7, he winds up on top.
He just took his dear, sweet time, right? Just made it dramatic all the way till the end. And I know that Panchik has his eyes on a bigger prize, and that's, winning the CrossFit Games, but you have to get through regionals to get there in the first place. And while he wasn't, leading at the end of day 1 or 2, his performances looking back were incredibly consistent. And again, that does you well in CrossFit. I mean, he had nothing outside of the top 10, snatched 275 pounds, and finished day 3 in great fashion with a 6th and a 4th. And he was never in danger. He just wasn't, we thought with Rich Froning gone that he would just be cruising and there'd be a wave of people miles behind him, but that wasn't the case. We had a battle out there.
And make no mistake about it, he is 100% a fit dude and one of the top athletes in the sport, but I think it's a testament to the rest of the competition that he never led until the dust settled on Event 7, so impressive.
Nick Urankar is a guy that we always talk about in that old Central East region where he would battle it out with the rest of the athletes, and he was close, but he could never quite get in, but he closed out great. A first, a second, and a second, and a 7th, and he gets into the CrossFit Games.
And Urankar, somebody that if you're new to the sport, you might remember that he went to the Games all the way back in 2011. This year, he made his mark in the CrossFit Games Open. He kicked it off with a bang. It was very high in the leaderboard for quite some time. At regionals, he was a little bit all over the map, everywhere from a 30th on Event 3, that chipper, to first place on the snatch with 295 pounds, so a big spread. And he went from 22nd at the end of day 1 to 7th at the end of day 2 to now 4th, and we will see him, since 2011, now all the way coming back to the Games.
And even though we've talked a little bit about Alex Anderson, I'm still going to throw him into the latest Who the Heck Is This Guy edition of this show. Not many people might not know about him, but he finishes 3rd, and he looks pretty consistent doing it.
Yeah, he finished 3rd place overall. It's a huge improvement from 8th last year, and if you actually follow the update show frequently, we mentioned him early on in the season. I picked him as one of my athletes to watch, and he hasn't disappointed. He was 3rd in the Open out in the Central East behind Froning and Panchik. We haven't talked about him much on the show this weekend, primarily because while everyone else was jumbling around the leaderboard, jumping from 1st to 5th, 10th to 8th, he stayed put basically the entire weekend. He finished day 1 in 3rd, he finished day 2 in 4th, 1 spot slips, and then after all said and done, 3 days in, he's 3rd again, so he really kind of hung in the middle of the pack there on the top 5, and he's going to the Games for the first time, the second Anderson brother to go.
Yeah, it was EA, correct? The other
yes,
one he went?
Anderson, his older brother.
From down in the southeast. Let's go to the women's leaderboard. We have the updated scores there for the Central Regional. Brooke Wells, despite finishing 29th in Event 7, still wins. Nicole Holcomb finishes 2nd. Stacy Tovar in 3rd. She's going back to the Games, as are Elizabeth Akinwale and Lindy Barber. And Jennifer Duncan talked to Stacy Tovar after she got herself back to the CrossFit Games.
We've got our first place finisher here in the Central Regional. Brooke, you are the 19-year-old competitor here. We kind of talked about the age, maybe not even having a factor for you as a matter of fact, but you were brought to tears. You were so happy a minute ago. You want to talk about your excitement and how you feel about this?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly came here for the experience and to have fun. It's my first year. I was just trying to take it all in, and then after the second day, I was like, wow, this is really fun, but I want to win, and it was just incredible experience.
So you started doing CrossFit just as a side workout for your track and field,
right,
and now you come in to be a first place finisher. What do you take away with all of that and your hard work going into the Games?
I mean, after I got into CrossFit, I realized I set my priorities all on CrossFit, and so it's really exciting to watch it all pay off, considering I gave up a track scholarship, and so it's just all so worth it.
And what does the future hold now?
Lots of training, lots of muscle-ups and rope climbs, that's for sure.
Well, very good. Thank you so much, Brooke. And we're so glad that you, our 19-year-old competitor here, have placed first.
Obviously, that was Brooke Wells that Jen Duncan spoke to, the winner of the women's competition there in the Central Regional. But, man, I mean, she fixes that hole in her game, and look out.
Yeah, and if you had told me at the start of this weekend that when all is said and done at the Central Regional, a 19-year-old regional rookie would walk away as the champion ahead of the likes of Tovar, Akinwale, Fouché, Lindy Barber, Sheila Barden. I would have laughed at you and put $20 down as a bet.
No doubt.
Promptly lost that $20. But really, Brooke Wells, she had some holes. She had a 26th and then a 29th at last event. But everything else was inside the top 5. She mentioned that she turned down a track scholarship to compete in CrossFit, and really that says she's a tremendous athlete out of the box. And if she fixes up those holes, she's really got some firepower and some home run capability after winning Randy and having some really impressive event finishes in the snatch.
And maybe, it's easy to watch her crush it all weekend long, see her in Event 7 struggling on those rings and be like, well, this girl's got a big hole in her game, whatever. But I remember years ago, 2009, being at the ranch and watching Annie Thor's daughter, who then we didn't know who this person was, just struggling on the rings. And now, fast forward to several years later of her consistently training, she seems to be doing okay. So for a 19-year-old, better watch out.
Yeah, she definitely has some good years ahead of her in the sport. Lindy Barber, meanwhile, finishing 5th as she sneaks in event number 7. She makes a return trip to the CrossFit Games, and she spoke with Jennifer Duncan.
We have Lindy Barber standing here with us, and Lindy, it was heartbreaking last year for you. I got to watch it, but you've trained so hard, regardless of any back problems you've had and everything else going into this. So how do you feel being able to return now to the games?
Oh, it feels incredible. Last year, going into regionals was really hard. I had a good mindset, but then my body was just not cooperating. It was not doing what I was telling it to do. So it was hard to make it one year, not make it the next year, and then kind of like lose your confidence a little bit. I mean, it's such a mental game. CrossFit is hard. So to be able to go in the gym every single day with not knowing how the workout's going to go is really mentally taxing. And this year especially, I had a couple injuries through the open. Like I popped a couple ribs, and then my back flared up about 3 weeks ago. So I've had a lot of stuff that I'm overcoming. So coming into this weekend was more of, I just want to perform my best and keep my fingers crossed and hope everything plays out. And now that today is over and all I did all weekend was focus on myself and my performance and keeping myself healthy, I cannot be more ecstatic that it all worked out. I mean, I can't even put it into words how unbelievably excited I am to go back.
Well, of course you want to be unbelievably excited to go back to the games, right?
I mean,
of course, right.
Now that it's super regions, it totally changed the game. With that super region, it put this struck fear in everyone's heart a little bit. So it was just a whole new ball game, right? So then coming in with not only the best in my region, but now the best in Central region as well, it puts a whole new spin on it. So it was a little bit more stressful, but also it was amazing to compete with this many incredible athletes on the floor.
We are so happy.
Lindy Barber kind of had an up and down weekend, but she certainly finished it off the right way.
And this is a girl that went to the games in 2013, and admittedly, I thought it looked pretty grim for her to make it this year. She really impressed me, and for those of you that don't know Lindy Barber, she has a pretty awesome story. She actually suffered a broken back years ago, and doctors told her not only will you never really compete in athletics on any level, just, having a regular life would be something which should be, that should be your goal. Makes it to the games, misses out last year, keeps training, fights hard, and gets it all the way back this year in the Central region. Man, she's got hard.
And this is one of the situations where I couldn't be happier to be wrong, because I didn't think necessarily she'd make it back either. But really, it's a testament to her strength and her will, especially in that last event. We saw Sheila Barden get to the bar before anyone else, that last bar. She didn't give up. She kept pressing. A few things went her way. She overtook the Barden in that placing, and now she's heading to the games.
And Julie Fouché finishes 8th when it's all said and done. But she did more than half the events in a boot and with a partially torn Achilles tendon.
I mean, why wouldn't you, right? And we knew
8th.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as it became apparent that she's going to be able to wear that boot and do some rowing, kicking into the handstands, and then she's like, maybe I'll touch the rings. So, since this was going to be her last year, she says, I can't blame her for wanting to go as far as she possibly can.
And really, this is like a legendary performance in my mind. We talk about people in this sport that have done things that kind of transcend just the results on the leaderboard. This absolutely is one of those moments. And really, for her to do that in an effort to close out what could be the end of her competitive career really just solidifies the fact that she's one of the best that CrossFit has seen compete in this sport so far.
I think we all hope, though, that she changes her mind and
absolutely
come back for one more year, Julie. We want to see you at the games. Central teams, CrossFit Mayhem Freedom spent most of the competition chasing the top spot. They end up in the top spot, 600 points. They do great on Sunday. Rich Froning-esque right there. 417 finishing in second, followed by Maximus, CrossFit Kilo, and then CrossFit Grandview by 6 points over on track. Jen Duncan spoke with Rich Froning and company.
And you guys really had great communication and great strategy. Let's talk about your strategy coming into this event, as a matter of fact.
Well, it changed last minute, so I think the change was good. James said I should go last because the overhead walking lunge is pretty easy for me. So he was like, you need to hit that last, so we switched that up. We had a few little snags in there we weren't expecting, but we did good, real good. You know, we didn't know what was going to happen, and turned out well.
Now, when y'all came over, you were all really excited. I saw a happy dance, as a matter of fact, from a couple of you guys. So right now, just really happy, really proud of the team?
Yeah, really proud. You know, we battled through some stuff, and you find out a lot about your teammates, so it's some experience going into the game, so it'll be fun.
Very good. And this is Mayhem talking about their excitement, finishing off day 3, waiting to find out where they place.
Thank you, Jen. And the team here that Rich Froning is on had a very Rich Froning individual performance in that they pretty much dominated Sunday.
You know, and Rich just can't catch a break. I mean, we're harassing him here in the show, and he's an individual. And, you know, during all of his interviews, he always said that his body feels good, he can continue competing, but it's that mental pressure and grind of being the champ. So, of course, when he goes team, we throw all that pressure on his team as well. He can't escape that. And so for them to win how they did with all eyes on, you know, this is your first time in the team, we expect the whole world from you, and they weren't leading at the end of the first 2 days, but they stuck together as a team, fought through it, and still won. I find that incredibly impressive.
Now that we've seen all 3 of these supposed super teams go, NorCal, Ute, and Mayhem, we decided to put all their scores together and rank them as if they had competed in the same regional, and here's what we come up with. NorCal CrossFit would have won. Look at that. Mayhem Freedom by 10 points over Ute CrossFit. So just setting the stage there, let the trash talking begin. I'm sure there's some screenshots being taken of that right now by certain people. And that's on
third
Instagram
place.
now.
Man,
so,
that's going to be a social media campaign kicking off.
Let's head back out west now to Seattle, the Tacoma Dome for the West Regional, where the teams are now done. Lane 5 Athletics is your first place finisher, followed by CrossFit Marysville, Verdant Green, CrossFit Fort Vancouver, and Team Tyrannus. Good day for Lane 5 Athletics as they go back-to-back first place finishes to get themselves into first place and into the CrossFit Games. Meanwhile, the men's competition, they have yet to wrap up. They are through 6 events. Here are your standings as we head into event number 7. And it is Tyson Takasaki who sits atop the leaderboard for the first time in this competition. 4 Canadians there in the top 4. Lucas Parker looking like he's in a good spot to get back to the games, but this one's close because only 40 points separate first from 7th. Cody Anderson currently occupies that 5th and final spot, but he's going to have to hold off Kevin Simons and Cole Sager as well. But Cody Anderson, we know he can do well in the rings. And even though he's small, he does have the capacity to move that barbell.
Yeah, and we saw that last year in the clean speed ladder when during the second round of that event when the barbells went up to 325 pounds. Cody Anderson, who's a $160, maybe soaking wet, carrying a 10-pound weight, walks up to that 325-pound barbell and lifts it anyways. And he held court in event 6 by winning that event, you know, putting himself back up into 5th. And we know he'll do that well in the muscle-ups. He won the muscle-up biathlon. And although kind of Sheila Barden, who I consider a similar athlete in terms of strength, kind of gives me cause for concern seeing how she did in this workout, I still think Cody will be able to breeze through the barbells, make sure he gets all of his lifts, 1 attempt each, and go to the games.
Now, Cole Sager currently sits in 7th place. He is definitely within striking distance there. Kind of opposite case of Cody. I mean, we know Cole can handle the barbell. It's just how fast now he can get through those muscle-ups.
Cole's going to punch into that top 5, give Cody a little help against all those Canadians trying to take over the region up there. And Cole can do it. The guy is an absolute hoss. He loves muscle-ups. They're a great movement for him. But he's got himself in a bit of a tough position given how stiff the competition ahead of him is. After 6 events, he finds himself in 7th place, 2 places from a qualifying spot, and 15 points out going into the final event. And again, we keep learning this lesson, right? Like 15 points doesn't sound a lot. What just happened on event 7 out there with the Central Women? I mean, it's almost, there's just no way to tell how people are going to do in this workout. So Cole Sager needs to go out there like nothing else matters in the world but event 7.
Can Tyson Takasaki hang on to that top spot?
I think so. I mean, you look at how he made his way up into the top spot overall thus far. Never finished outside of the top 10 in any event. He's qualified for the games 2 times. He's been through that adversity of being on the outside looking in, heading into that final event when he jumped up into second last year after a strong performance winning event 7. I think he'll be able to hold on. He's good enough at muscle-ups, and he's strong enough on the barbell.
I actually 100% agree with Tommy. This guy's a beast, 2 times games athlete. He's in first place for a reason. I think he'll continue to be there.
On the women's side, they are now through 6 events. Those standings have updated. Emily Abbott is in first place still. She has 511 points. She is basically clinched a spot, barring a total collapse or disaster or injury or something. Carlene Matthews sits in second, followed by Jessica Core after her win in event number 6. Alex Parker is fourth, and then Reagan Huckabee sits in 5th place, but she's only 10 points up on Emily Morris. Jessica Core did herself a huge favor with that first place finish there in event number 6. She had before that had a 3rd in event number 5. Strong finish on tap for her.
Yeah, and she's really kind of closed the weekend out strong. She started with a 13th and a 15th to open up day number 1, but since then, a 6th, a 3rd, and now an event win. The 5-time games athlete on the team for CrossFit Fort Vancouver has set herself up nicely. Even if she doesn't win, even if she, maybe doesn't necessarily do so well in this last event, she's given herself a 62-point cushion over 6th, which looks very good for her to be able to qualify for the first time as an individual.
Emily Abbott sitting in first place, like I said, has basically clinched a spot, and she did it because she's just only has 1 finish outside of the top 6.
Yeah, I mean, so after every event that goes down, the leaderboard reshuffles, right? So maybe you're winning after one event, but then you bomb Tommy V and you're suddenly in 7th, and it's different at the end of the day, et cetera, et cetera. At the end of every single event, she's been in first place. She's never even been in second for a moment. So going into the final event, a woman that's been just in control from start to finish, there's no reason to think that she's going to have anything other than a fantastic event 7 as well.
1 event to go for the men and women of the West Regional. Let's send you back to Tacoma, where Brandon Domain and John Jansen are standing by.